Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations.
Hey. Hello. Is this Jeff? Oh, yeah. So that's right. My brother's supposed to be here to actually do the intros. Hello, everyone. Yep. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. I am today's host, which is the younger and better looking of the brothers, Brian Jackson. If you're watching on video right now, I'm on the left side, and the devilishly handsome and looks so much more handsome than my normal brother on the right side of your screen is Jeffrey Hartman, Dr. Jeffrey Hartman. Jeffrey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Brian. Thanks for having me back.
Well, as you know, I couldn't do it alone, so I had to find someone, and I pretty much went through my Rolodex, and then you were the only one that got back to me. So welcome. Yeah,
great.
Well, aren't you so excited now?
Great reference to Rolodex on a tech show too, by the way. So.
Yeah. I meant a digital Rolodex, right? I mean, that's Rolla dash Dex. It's like this new thing. You wouldn't know about it. You wouldn't know. That's okay. Yeah.
Tune in.
Yeah. Well, so if you haven't figured out already with some of the dishing I've been doing, Alan is not here. Alan may be popping in a little later, but I think it shows which of the two brothers is truly committed to this podcast, and is here for all of you, all of our many, many listeners, to make sure that you get your weekly dose of home and retail and everyday technology, right? That's what we're here for. So Brothers in Tech is all about you and how you use technology at home in your everyday life. We're not really into the corporate thing. We're not into high-end technology that would cost an arm and a leg, although maybe I shouldn't say that with today's topic. But we're here to make sure that you have the newest and latest information that's going to hopefully make your life a little bit more efficient. So we're excited to have Jeff here today. For those that have listened or watched in the past, Jeff is a, can I say regular? I think you've been maybe twice.
This is number 3.
This is number 3. So you're the only one who has been on here more than once, actually. So welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Jeff, let me give a quick intro, and then I'm going to let you fill in the gaps for me, because you're doing all sorts of cool stuff these days. But so Jeff is he has a PhD in kinesiology and is a professor at Gardner-Webb University in Boiling Springs, North Carolina. Right?
You got it.
Yep. And Jeff and I have known each other for years, and we actually went to graduate school together. And he and I are technology buddies. And, when we first met, we started getting into different forms of technology back when the iPhone was coming out. We both became, I converted him actually to a Mac guy. He was, I think, PC at the time, and he never looked back. So now he's one of my brothers in Mac. And so, Jeff, what else you got going on these days? Anything of interest? I know you have a lot of side things happening. Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do little bodywork massage on the side. That's part of my fitness ministry. And
so talk about bodywork. What does that mean?
So there's what most people are familiar with when you hear the word massage, not the kind you're thinking of, Brian, but the kind most people go for. And that's just where you get the kind of the sort of woo relaxation massage. Bodywork is more clinical massage. So people will come in with a particular issue. You'll do an assessment beforehand to objectively verify their subjective symptoms, and then you're doing targeted work. So it's much more localized, concentrated. You're hitting individual muscles versus what most people would think about, which is just kind of long, slow strokes to induce relaxation.
Yeah. So you're not doing what most people would be getting at a resort, where they go and this is their chance to relax. You probably have clients that are weekly or even bi-weekly. Like what's the regularity that someone does body work?
It depends. So I just had a gentleman who did some issues with his back, and he is scheduled. He's actually over summiting Everest Base Camp right now. And nice. So he came in
Just because of your body work is what you're going to say? Yeah, that he's able to do this because of your body work.
Well, he was ready to throw in the towel, and we had 2 weeks together. We met 3 times. We did a little cupping, did a little heat therapy. We messed in a little cryotherapy, and either he's ignoring me or he's on his way up to base camp right now. So that's really cool. That's rare when you see something like that. A lot of tennis, a lot of golf.
Okay. Yep. So he's got to be fit, right? Good tennis guy.
I'm sorry. Maybe there's a laugh there. I thought. Yeah.
Come on. You can say yes. Yeah.
Very.
And you notice I slid right past the whole little bit of cupping, right? And just for people to know, that's not a form of spooning. Jeff is actually talking about something like he doesn't just spoon his clients unless they really pay a lot.
That's an extra fee.
Yeah. So cupping, just maybe give a quick thing on cupping wood, because there's kind of a form of technology there in a way that it's a little bit of a newer design, or I guess it's been around a while, but tell me what cupping is. I know people are probably see it on TV now, right? They'll see athletes. So tell me real quick what cupping is.
So you could think probably Michael Phelps is the athlete who really popularized, I don't know what Olympics it was, when he showed up and he had all these octopus sucker rings all over his back. And so cupping is just, I use silicone cups. You can use glass or plastic cups, and you're just creating a pressure inside of the cups. You're basically trying to draw the deep blood more towards the surface, towards the muscle, to get more oxygen into the muscle. Heat, friction, and oxygenated blood.
And then that's what you see on the surface is blood being brought up like a bruise, and therefore there's more blood kind of in that particular area, right? Which is a good thing. Yeah. It's not. Yeah, you're right. It's not a bruise, but you said it's like a bruise. Exactly.
It's similar to that.
Yeah. Very cool. So that's part of what you would do with some of your body work as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
I get to use an ancient technology with a little bit of a modern silicone flair.
There you go. See the silicone. Maybe the silicone was our tech for that particular part of the show there. Very nice. Cool. Well, so Jeff is, as I mentioned, Jeff's kind of big into tech with me. He and I will often be sharing, new tech that we found, new software that we're looking into. Usually if Apple comes out with a new iOS, we'll get a text to one another to be like, have you downloaded it yet? Does it work? Is there any issues? Usually it's Jeff asking me, have you downloaded it yet? Or should I try? Did it screw up your phone? Because I'd like, you'd like me to do it before you do. But so, he's perfect to have on this podcast. We've had him on here about some fitness things in the past, and we'll probably continue to bring him back on that. But today, that there is a form of fitness into our discussion. And we'll get there in a few minutes. I do want to spend a couple more talking about some of our a couple other issues that I'm going with. But we're going to talk about e-bikes and what is an e-bike and why might you look into e-bikes and what's all the rage about e-bikes about. Jeff has actually been in that market and actually purchased an e-bike recently. So I thought it'd be perfect to hear kind of the process that he went through and some of the do's and don'ts when you're looking into that e-bike world. So we'll get into that in just a couple minutes. Jeff, I wanted to give you a quick update because even though I know you're one of our, consistent listeners, I'm sure you listen religiously to our podcast and you know exactly what we've been talking about.
I'm happy to hear you. You finally got your mom to listen too. So congratulations.
That's right. Both of you, actually all three of you. You're right. All three of you are listening now. And well, at least, you are. But one of the things I wanted to bring up, I mentioned to you before the show started that so Alan has gone on this crusade in the last several episodes, and we've kind of gotten him to step off the ledge a little bit from his frustrations with email. And unfortunately, I don't have a ton of an update to provide with Alan's email conquest at this point. But Jeff, I would just mention to you, you mentioned to me that you would never spend money on an email client. Alan has made that move. And I'm hoping if he does show up a little later, he'll maybe tell us if he's still using it. But you are a Mac mail person. Am I correct? You're the default built-in mail client that's on Apple.
Yep. I've
Right?
tried
Yeah.
other clients based on some of your recommendations, and the freeness and the simplicity of mail just keeps calling me back.
Yep. Yep. And I will be honest with you, I keep bouncing back and forth. I was with Outlook, and then I was with Spark, and then I came back to Mac Mail, and even today I got so frustrated at Mac Mail I switched over to Outlook again, and so I have them all fired up and ready, so in case one frustrates me I jump to the other, and at least they're all set up with my signatures and all of that, which is good. But Alan, as far as I know, is still with Missive, which is an email client that I had not heard of before, but Missive. And it is really, really impressive. Pretty much does everything that he and I both came up with as a must-have. I do think he's spending maybe $10 a month for it, something like that. So, but it's the desktop and the iOS version. It's got a number of different features. So, if you get a chance, take a look at Missive. Not necessarily for your use, but I'm hoping that eventually they come with more of a entry level that someone can do. Right now I'm using it, but it's limited in terms of search and some of the other things. But I wanted to quickly just mention a frustration that I had in a very similar episode. I think it was last week or maybe the week before, where one of my picks was a software called Motion. And I'm going to pull that up real quick. And Jeff, I don't know if you have ever heard of this Motion before, but so Motion's a software that I tested just for our Bits episode in our most recent Bits, and it's really, really cool. It's incredibly expensive, so it's not something that I expect people to do. It's $20-something a month. But what this does, what I love, what it's trying to do, which is it's integrating your task and your calendar. So Jeff, let's say that you have your task manager where you're like, okay, I've got these 12 things that I need to do this week that I want to keep reminding myself that I want to do. And then you also have a calendar where you have your actual meetings set up. Well, what Motion does is takes your tasks and fills them in for you within your calendar, basically blocks off your calendar for you to do these things. So if you say, hey, I have a task of grading this exam and it's going to take me 2 hours, but you put in there, I can do it in 15-minute increments, right? I don't have to do it all 2 hours at once. And you tell it that when you set up your task. And then you say, I have another exam that I want to grade. I want to do this with it. And it's going to take an hour and a half. And I have, this work that I'm doing on this paper, and it's going to take this much time. You set all that up in your task, and it will continue to move them in spaces where you have, and basically block that off and tell you, hey, listen, you've got the next 2 hours are open. You need to be working on this. And if you get it done, you check it off. If you don't get it done, it moves it to the next available slot. And, when you have a little 15 minutes later in the day, it says, by the way, we just put this in your calendar. And it continues to dynamically shift your task within your calendar, which is really, really, really cool. Not worth $20-some a month, right? Not from me. Now, if I was an organization and I had a bunch of people that were all on this account and we were all kind of shifting around tasks based on people's calendars, maybe so. Okay, well, here's my update, though. I tried it out. We showed it on Brothers in Tech with our Bits episode. Thought it was really cool. Our takeaway was it's way too expensive for an individual right now. And then, so I did this 7-day trial, set it up, showed how it worked on my calendar. It was actually really cool, integrated into my calendar. Everything was good. About 2 or 3 days afterwards, I went on and said, you know what, delete all my data, right? I'm not going to do it, out. Then I end up getting 7 days after I started, I get a bill for $248. Okay, where it actually charged my account, because for me to set up that 7-day trial, they charged me, even though I had not used it once other than that first hour. Okay, I tried it on the show, showed it, immediately went in and said, get rid of my data, but I didn't realize get rid of the data was not also canceling the account. So anyway, I get the bill, or I get the bill in my email, $248 been charged to your account. And I immediately sent an email back, said, hey, listen, sorry, that was obviously there was a oversight. You can tell by whatever your accounting is. I haven't used it, right? I set it up once. It's not something I want. You just charged me an hour ago. If I could get a refund, that would be fantastic. I appreciate it. Got an initial auto response that said, thank you, even though our billing is, I can't remember their wording. They said something like, we will bill you when, your 7 days is up, and that's part of the agreement. However, we typically will refund, that if we determine that once we look into our records that you haven't set up your counter, you haven't done whatever, something like that. Yeah. So, initially I went in right then and said, well, I'm trying to cancel this account. So I went in and found out how to cancel, click cancel, and it comes up and says, we're canceling. It'll take a minute. Nothing happens. Went up and did it again. Nothing happens. I checked it today. My account's still there, even though I canceled it. I'm trying to remove there's all sorts of funky things that were going on. So, and I still haven't heard back from them yet. That's been about 48 hours. Okay. Which is a bad sign.
Yep.
So I made sure in the last email I sent in, I said, signed the person who has a podcast talking about technology, which we positively reviewed your technology in the last episode. So I'm going to kind of negatively review their software right now as let's wait and see, because, this is something that's a real pet peeve of mine that, currently, in order to try a lot of software, you most likely will have to put in a credit card that says, yes, I will get charged if this is the case. And then if you're like me, I put in a reminder to myself, a day before that to cancel it, make sure I've tried it. But when it's something where there's this integration with other calendars and I go in and say, clearly, delete all my data and, remove my calendar, in my mind, that was the step, which was the button was there to get out of this thing. But obviously that wasn't the case. So I'm hoping that they do the right thing, that Motion does the right thing and says, obviously you don't want to be part of this. And maybe they charge me a day, maybe they charge me 2 days. I'd be totally fine with that. But if they stick by their guns, let's just say that Motion will be getting a notice on every one of the podcasts for the next year that my $248 was paying for. So
there you go.
Yeah. They will know the wrath of our 3 listeners. Let me just tell you that. All right. Our 3 listeners will be pissed. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to give you a quick update on that. Unfortunate that happened and didn't occur fairly quickly. And maybe, who knows, tomorrow they'll send me an email that says, we're really sorry to hear that. Wish you could stay, but here's a refund for either all or most of it, and I would be okay with that. But I'll update everybody on the next episode to see whether or not I get my money back. And of course, $248 for a year is a lot of money for software that we talked about before. I think last week, both Alan and I said, if it was $5 a month for something that was really task oriented, really tries to save time, really does some integration, I would consider it, right? Especially if it was integrated with a really cool kind of scheduling, because it makes its own calendar, which is nice. You could use your own calendar app, but not for 20 something a month. And
no way. So
not happening. All right, so there we go. There's the updates. What did I do? 19 minutes. Yeah, that's not bad, right? We're doing okay. Now let's get into today's topic, which is why you're here, right? Other than we love having you on, Jeff. You are here to talk about e-bikes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that you can you're a professor, you're a teacher. I'm hoping you can give us a little bit of a definition of e-bike. What do we mean by e-bike? Why is it that we are talking about e-bikes?
Well, I spent about 8 weeks in Japan, maybe 5-6 years ago. And I distinctly remember this mom, 2 kids, one on the front of her bike, one on the back of her bike. She's in this long skirt, this nice white blouse. She's got groceries in a little side cart on her bicycle. And she's pedaling up this hill and like zero effort, just out for a little stroll, just going up this hill. How is this possible? American, right? Not really seeing e-bikes at this point. And the couple,
how does it happen?
It says, that they're e-bikes. They're everywhere. Everybody has them. And to me, that was just like, sometimes when you're confronted with the obvious, like, wow, this is such a game changer. And I know we've got the scooters here that you're much more familiar with, but the e-bike is just pedal assist for the most part. I think that's what most people think of. E-bikes can be straight throttle, depending on which class of e-bike you're getting into. But when you think e-bike, for most people, you pedal, a motor or motors are going to kick in when you start to pedal on the flywheel and assist you.
Okay.
And, we'll probably get into the weeds a little bit about the varying levels of pedal assist and whatnot. But
Yeah.
electronic bike, you got a motor in there that's helping you along.
Okay. So I know the answer to this, but just so people, people who might be kind of getting their first dive into this, how is it different than a moped, like an old school moped that has an engine on it that maybe even has a pedal to kind of get started or start the engine, but the moped you would not pedal, right? What this is it's a bike that the purpose is pedaling, and the engine is there to help, as opposed to an engine that's there to go and pedal only if you want. What's your approach on that? What is it? Bike
it
first,
really depends.
engine next?
It really depends on what kind of e-bike experience you're going for. Okay. So, I live in the Charlotte area, and Banker Bros have these, a real common bike you'll see in Charlotte. One that I was looking at was, I think it's called the Super 73. And it has a chain, pedal, crank, like a regular bike would, just for show. No one pedals.
Wait a minute, like a regular bike. You say bike, you're talking about bicycle.
Bicycle.
Like a regular bicycle. Got it.
It has pedals.
Yep.
You in theory, they're there to pedal. But pedal. No one. That's a throttle class 3 bike that no one pedals. It looks like a dirt bike. It's designed to look more rough. The pedals, my understanding of it is the pedals are on there, so it qualifies as an e-bike, so that you don't need to have a motorcycle license. You don't need to get the bike plated. You don't need to pay insurance. I don't think that's a controversial statement to say those kind of bikes, the pedals are just conversation pieces.
Yep. They're benefits that allow opportunities for things, right? So you're saying that there are different levels of bikes. So you're someone who's ridden a motorcycle in the past. You've had motorcycles in the past, right? So to have a motorcycle, something that is a motor, no pedal, it is being run by the engine only. Mm-hmm. You have to follow certain laws to have that, right? So helmet, I guess, depending on the state.
Depending on the state, yep.
Helmet.
You have to have a license
that actually says you can ride a motorcycle. Okay.
Yep.
Even though it's not really about speed, right? Because some of these e-bikes we'll talk about can actually go decently fast, right?
Pretty fast, yeah.
Okay. So it's more about like, this is something that is engine only, that is going to be on the road. You're going to be riding it we're talking about motorcycle. Those are going to be ridden on the road. You have to have a special license to ride them, or to ride them legally. Whereas the e-bikes are the way of kind of taking the in-between between the bike and the motorcycle, right? It gives you the assistance, but it's made as a bike that can be used only as a bike as well, right?
I will agree with you right up until that last statement.
Okay.
Because on some of these e-bikes and these class 3 throttle super powered bikes, you're looking at over 100 pounds. And when that motor kicks, I mean, how far are you going to pedal a 100 and some pound bike?
Okay.
So
technically you could, but you're saying it's really a formality. So class 3, you mentioned that a couple of times. Class 3 is the highest class of e-bike
in the US. That's my understanding.
Okay.
So class 1 is, I believe, can go no more than 20 miles per hour, pedal assist only.
Okay.
I think the only distinction between class 1 and class 2 also has a throttle option, meaning you don't need to pedal. You can just put it in throttle only mode and go crank on that, and it goes up to 20 miles per hour. And then I think I have it here. Yeah, class 3 can go, in theory, up to 28 miles per hour. Now,
Okay.
I say in theory because I have a friend who has an e-bike that you can very easily take the throttle off and go 39 miles per hour on it.
Take the
Which is not
throttle
legal.
or take the like?
I'm
So
sorry,
like a
take the,
governor, like a
take the
governor.
governor off.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it has the power to be able to go a lot faster than that, but it has a governor to keep it at 28 supposedly or less, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
To be legal in the U.S., that's my understanding, Class 3 can go no more than 28 miles per hour, pedal or throttle.
Interesting. So, and I assume the 28 is probably there because of, so that you're not fast enough to get on what is the normal road of 35 and, above or something like that, right?
I don't honestly know because there's no restrictions on where you take a pedal bike. I mean, you've seen around your area, around
Yep.
here, 35, 45 mile per hour road. There's people riding bikes on the side of the road. I mean, you should still share the road, right? Whether it's an e-bike or a bicycle or pedestrian.
Okay, so we have various levels of class of these things, but all those classes are still considered e-bikes because they're within that very little help to up to 28 miles an hour help, right? That's in that range, right?
Yep, and they have a pedal.
Okay, and they all have a pedal, and all technically they could, without the engine going, you could pedal them. Right.
Yes,
technically, sir. No matter what is it, the pedal actually works. Has a chain, pulls the bike along. Right.
Yep.
So so if that's the case, now we've got probably a ton of different variability. I'm assuming on not only the quality of those, but the amount of assists. Right. Talk to more about the pedal assist because that's the part that really intrigues me when people say pedal assist. Tell someone walk someone through that. What does that mean, pedal assist?
So I'm sure different bikes have different systems where the numbers will line up with pedal assist. I might be wrong on that. It might be an industry standard, but basically my understanding is you can have a 0 pedal assist, which as it implies, you're getting 0 assistance from the motor. You're pedaling a bicycle.
Okay.
You can then go to 1 pedal assist. And some bikes go 1, 2, 3. My bike goes up to 5 pedal assist. The greater the number, the greater the assist you're going to have from the motor when you pedal. And that is from the get-go. So as I'm sure you and your listener have heard, the big thing with e-vehicles is the torque, the get up and go, the instant kind of get up and go from a red light. And so with my particular e-bike, when you put it on pedal assist 5, I've been at a red light with a car right next to me. And as soon as I engage the flywheel, I start to pedal, I take off from that red light faster than a combustion engine vehicle. It will take them a good while to catch up to me, provided, it's a 35 mile an hour speed limit and they're not trying to race me.
And that's not because of your massive quads and your strength. That's because this thing engages really fast if you turn it, right?
Yeah. As soon as you hit that pedal, I would say there's probably a half a second to maybe a second lag between that initial oomph that my massive quads put on that pedal, and then it's just all pedal assist.
Okay, and that's actually a good distinction there, right? All of the e-bikes would have to require you to touch the pedal in order for it to go, or can you have an e-bike where you just reach up to a throttle and turn it and it goes? That would be technically like a moped, right? That's right, or no?
That's a class 2 and a class 3 have throttle assist. Yep.
Oh wow. Okay, so the throttle itself could make you take off without any pedal whatsoever. So literally you could go to and from work without ever moving your massive quads.
Yep.
Right? On a 2 and 3. On a 2 and 3 is your understanding.
Sir.
Okay.
Yep. And that's why part of my research process going in, because it's as I'm sure we'll discuss, it's a major financial investment on some of these bikes. I spoke to a number of banker bros in Charlotte and talked to them about pros and cons of the different bikes that they had. And that was a big selling point for that Super 73. It's throttle all the way, and they don't have to wait at red lights. They don't have to worry about parking it in a parking space and paying for parking. So they say, living in the city in Charlotte, it's a pretty bikeable city. They don't take their car out unless it's raining out. Because they will, if there's a red light, they'll buzz onto the sidewalk and keep going, which I believe is not legal, or they'll buzz through cut through a park, and straightest or quickest distance between 2 points is a straight line kind of mentality. And you said
you don't think that's legal? It's not legal for one of these to be on a sidewalk?
I don't think it's legal to jump from a bike lane to a sidewalk.
From a bike lane. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So it's that issue. It's not necessarily that these can't go on a sidewalk. It's that the jumping, right? I mean, are these, when we start looking at an e-bike compared to like a regular bike, if I take a regular bike and I'm through a park that is bike allowable, right? And I'm going through on my 10 speed or whatever the, cycle that I have, I'm assuming e-bikes can do the same thing legally, right? Because they are a bike. Or is there limitations there too of like when you can use an e-bike versus a regular bike?
I mean, I guess sense? I would. Yeah, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying, and I would default to my teacher mode here, which is I always obey all posted signs and policies.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, sure.
But there's a real popular trail down the road here in Greenville, South Carolina, the Swamp Rabbit Trail, and I forget how many 20 plus miles it is, and it's bike friendly, and they have e-bike rentals for the trail. So yes, it's my understanding, e-bikes, 10-speed bike, whatever. But I do think there's also a like a common sense factor, right? You shouldn't be going 30 miles per hour on a bike trail with kids and dogs and other bikers.
But you wouldn't feel bad about taking your e-bike on a bike trail if you never engaged the pedal. Like if you did pedal assist 0 and you had it's like, hey, I'm riding a bike like everybody else, right? Or is it the other way? I'm sorry, which is pedal assist 0 means it's not helping you at all, right?
You're getting no assistance. Yeah.
Got it.
And I would mind that because my bike is really heavy. But I've been on bike trails with my bike, with my son, and just kind of cruising with the pedal assist at 1.
Yeah.
I don't have any guilt in it, and if this is a good time to mention it, I don't know, but I will, and you tell me if you want to circle back to it.
Sure.
There is still a bit of a stigma with e-bikes among your biking enthusiasts, i.e. people on their 10 speeds with their tiny little wheels, and your more fitness oriented people. They, you're cheating. You're not pedaling. It's a scooter.
Yep. No, I certainly,
the research though doesn't support that.
Yeah.
There's some research to show that the difference in heart rate, I believe the study, maybe I'll find it in my notes, it was less than 10 beats per minute difference between people who were given an e-bike and a regular bike and told to go for a ride. But the beauty of it, and the reason why I sold my Harley in order to afford to buy 2 e-bikes, is because my son would not ride a bike unless he had the pedal assist option. And so
because of the frustration of being in an area with hills and all of that, you're going to spend half the time getting off of it and trying to walk it up and all the frustration of that, right?
I mean, you've lived in North Carolina, 3 months out of the year, it's the devil's front porch here. And he doesn't want to go out and sweat, which I don't blame him. And now we can go out and still get more exercise than he would get on his Switch or Xbox.
Yeah.
But not, where you're just, listening to him complain the entire time.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, the research, both you and I could pick apart research all day long, but, the research saying you give the same people these 2 different bikes, you can get the same basic workout. But I think the big question really becomes like, who's choosing the e-bikes right now? Right? Are they the individuals that would not have and are not going to give the same amount of effort or not. But you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, if we say who's buying the e-bikes, and now you say you've got your e-bike riders and you have your non-e-bike riders, are the e-bike riders still getting the same workout as the non-e-bike riders? Probably not, because the non-e-bike riders are doing it probably for more of the fitness gains, right?
Right.
But the beauty of this, and this is where I want to get into, is like, what's the upside here? The upside to me is if you're getting people that are now riding a bike that before would not have at all, like your son, and it keeps them now, even if it's not jumping on and being, you know, in the tight shorts, getting on their, you know, 10 speed and going for, you know, long 100-mile rides, they are doing more than they would have done initially. And it keeps them from then saying, well, I'm going to drive everywhere. Then now if we're getting more people off of the road and onto a bike to provincially, you know, potentially having some more exercise, I just look at it as the people who, as you said, would not have ridden a bike because they do not want to get at the bottom of a hill and have to navigate walking a bike up the hill.
Yeah.
And that's just not fun, right? I think of my parents, right? I'd love to have my parents on an e-bike, which there's no way in the world that they would be on a bike because of knee issues, because of the ability to navigate, balance issues. But if they knew that any time that they couldn't do the pedal, that they would be able to assist themselves to get up a hill, I love that idea.
Yep.
I think it's fantastic. So now it's the difference of getting people riding that weren't riding, as opposed to, is it taking people away from riding the right way or a different way, right? Completely.
Yeah. Do you want
question.
The way I would kind of talk to my students about it is, do you want 50% of 500 calories or do you want 100% of 0 calories? And so, yeah, they're doing half the work, but they're doing the work, right? Like they're out
that's
they're out
a great
there.
idea.
And who do I, again, this is an N of one, right? Who's buying e-bikes right now? To me, it's the two ends of the spectrum, right? It's the banker bros who's got the cash to drop, you know, $2,000-$3,000 on a bike to commute to work. And then I see a lot of older individuals who are retired, maybe like you're saying with your parents, my parents, older, that their knees, their backs, everything is not going to let them go out and get a 10 speed and enjoy it. But now they get these e-bikes and they're putzing around the neighborhood and just, you know, 20-30 minute bike ride, barely breaking a sweat. But who cares? They're out.
Right. And you know, from being a West Coast person now, right? The less cars you have out, you know, having those engines going, right? If we're talking E and giving battery powered, right, as opposed to, you know, having lots of engines going and having more cars on the road and more traffic, right? If you can get people to get where they want to go. I mean, that's the other benefit I see. You mentioned Baker Bros, which I'm assuming is that's a term of the bank people, right, going to work there in Charlotte, right? Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the younger bankers.
Yeah. And of course, if you told me, I mean, can I ride my bike to work? I can, right? It takes me about an hour to do it, and I've done it several times, but I'm not going to do it if I have to be in a suit or if I have to get there and put a suit on.
Right.
Right. Unless I'm going there with a gym, with a place that I can, you know, take a shower and all of that. Right. Whereas you had an e-bike, pedal assist, right? If I'm saying, well, I want to still do the bike, but I want to do it with less calorie burn, because I don't want to sweat. And when I get there, I want to make sure that, you know, I can still do what I was going to do at work. I think that's pretty exciting too. So to me, I see you got those two benefits, right? You got the ones who couldn't bike if it was just a bike, and now this is helping them. You got the people who would really love to bike, but maybe their situation keeps them off their bike because of sweat or because of, you know, being able to get there fast enough, right? And if this assists in that, then fantastic, right? Kind of get you a little closer to that European approach to everybody riding bikes. When we were in Denmark, it was just amazing to see everybody commuting on bikes, and it's like everybody, hundreds of people going in at a time. And that's great. But I also thought to myself, I'm like, my gosh, me hopping off a bike after coming, you know, even 45 minutes and going into teaching classes all day, right? I would want a shower. I'd want to, how much am I going to have to carry to work to change when I get there? But a pedal assist, maybe.
Have to fix your hair after that bike ride?
Well, and that takes hours and hours and hours, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. why don't we jump into more specific? I mean, we've been fairly specific so far, but I want to hear about your particular bike, because let's use yours as an example of the thought process you put in, some of the pros and cons that you took into account, right? So if you're okay with it, let's pull up what you chose to go with, and maybe you could talk us through the why. Like if you gave me a list of 5 reasons why you chose this one, right? And that you can kind of walk us through. Are we good with that?
Yeah, love it.
Okay. All right. Let me pull up here, and you walk me. You tell me what to do here, or what we want to do.
Yeah, so these are the aerial rider bikes. The particular one I purchased was the Grizzly.
Okay, right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Grizzly. All right, and tell us why. Maybe 2 things. Tell us why the aerial rider, and then tell us why the Grizzly. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, I fell in love with that. I believe, again, it was called the Super 73 bike. And there's a whole number of options in those bikes.
And that's a particular company, or is that a particular style?
That's a particular company.
Okay,
Super 73, I think there's different options within that bike. And that's the one I see everybody in Charlotte riding. And the more people I talk to, the more it was like the single best purchase they've ever made in their life was the common refrain I heard. And so it looks badass. I mean, just straight up, it looks like a motorbike, just missing the motor. I was a Harley guy for 10 years. If I was getting rid of my Harley, I still wanted to have some street cred and not be riding around in one of these little, foldable e-bike type things. I was just looking for a wedgie. So I did some research on it, and the reason I went away from that and I went to the Grizzly, it has a similar kind of badass look to it, not fully as badass, but it looks sleek. So that me, I felt like, okay, I won't get too made fun of, even though I still do. It has 2 batteries. And you could run one at a time, or you could run both at a time. So for me, that was huge. I'm not going to get stranded with a 100 and some pound bike. It has 2 motors. And to me, that was the number one selling point.
Okay. Let's stick on that for a minute. So the 2 batteries, I'm assuming it's
one on the frame there.
One on the frame, and then one under the seat?
Yep. One under the ass. Yep.
Okay. So those are just batteries. Just powering batteries. Whatever you're doing there, right? And then where are the engines? You said 2 engines. Where are those? Or motors?
So are 2 motors. Yep. In the front wheel and in the rear wheel are your motors.
So up here is a motor, and back here is a motor.
Back here is a motor. Yeah. And so most bikes that I've seen either have the motor down by the crank, which is from what I've read, a preferred location, because low center of gravity, more balance. And unlike, on my bike, we were talking before we went on the air, if you need to replace the tire, that's not something that I'm going to be able to do by myself, because you've got the motor connections you got to deal with. You're going to have to probably have somebody who actually knows what they're doing come in and change that tire out. That's the downside to having the motors in the on the tires.
I gotcha. So when you say on the crank, so there are some bikes where it's down here where the pedals are, right? Right.
Yeah,
between the pedals. That's where the motor.
It's where do you see the battery is?
Yep.
The kind of the last third of the battery is where you would oftentimes see the motor.
Okay.
And that's not exclusive, but that's kind of what I came across most commonly in my research.
And is there a difference between the single and dual motor? I mean, you have 2, you said, and then that would be a 1. Is that more power? Is that more stability? Is that what's the
more
advantage?
Power? More power. So that was the knock on the other bike. When we're going up steep hills, at the 50% mark, you're really slowing down. At 75% up the hill, you're barely crawling up like on a steep, long hill. With this bike, you barely slow down on the steepest, longest hill. I
Wow.
mean, it is a beast, absolute beast. It's a monster. It
And
has a headlight, which you could kind of see on the
okay.
front, and it
Yep.
has a tail light. So safety wise too, I thought that was a good option. You want to be seen coming and going. And that was an important factor for me because my son's going to be either in front of me or trailing behind me.
Yep. Yep. And then what else is up here? So what's on the handlebars controls? Like what can someone expect to have to do, right? I'm assuming there's some of these bikes that literally there's nothing. It's just it's just regenerative helping you. But as this is a little different. So tell us about that.
Yes. So you can go 0 pedal assist, and you actually have an option to change the I'm not a bike expert here, so I'm showing my ignorance, but when you change
Like
a gear shifter,
the gear,
yeah,
the gear
shifter. Yeah, if you look in
Like
that
up here.
right hand side, yep, that's a gear shifter.
Yep.
If you go down towards the handlebar on that, you can see that's where the throttle is. So where you would actually grip the
I got you. Like out here.
There's your
Yep.
That's your throttle right there to just engage. It's got disc brakes, front and rear disc brakes on the handlebars, and it has an LCD screen that displays time, displays distance, displays speed, displays date, displays what level pedal assist you are. It's a slick LCD screen. Probably like the size, I'm guessing, of the first generation iPhone, maybe a little bigger.
And does that come off, or do you like, if you were to go park somewhere and walk into, do you pop that off, or is that mounted,
I don't think so.
blocked on?
I've never thought about that, so thanks for that nightmare. Just one more thing to worry about.
You're welcome.
On a $3,000 bike, but I don't think so. I think it's hardwired in there.
Okay.
It also the LCD to access the bike, and I'm sure you could turn this option off. I have to put in a 4-digit code.
Oh, okay.
So that's another safety feature. When I was buying my bike lock for it, I went to a reputable local bike shop and I said, listen, this is more than my first car. Like I want a good lock for it. And he's looking at the bike and he's like, no one's going to steal this thing because you can't turn it on. If they figure out how to turn it on, they won't know the code. It's going to be too hard for them to lift and put in the back of a truck. Yeah. And they're not going to pedal it away because they're only going to get 100 yards before they decide it's not worth it. So he's like, you don't need to go crazy on a lock for it.
Can it be locked so that it can't even pedal? I mean, can you set it to say, like, unless I put in the code, you can't even move the pedals? Like, does it lock that way, or does it?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think that's an option.
So, so regardless, like, I could get on your bike and at least pedal it to a different spot or move it around the garage without having to go get your code and all that stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. So, just make sure people know, and I will go ahead and admit I did get a chance to try yours, right? I got a chance to try yours several months back, and it was super
You're still
cool.
Smiling.
Yep, super cool. I mean, the look of it to me, and this is someone who has very little experience with motorcycles at all, I think of Bad News Bears movie and Kelly, whatever that bad kid was that was in the Bad News Bears, who had this cool little just little motorcycle. What was that? That was like a little 80 horsepower or something, right?
Yeah, probably.
Just a cool old little dirt bike that just looks to me like just badass, cool old dirt bikes, right? That's kind of where this style is. Really small frame. Of course, that had the gas tank in the middle and all that stuff, but it's got that same feel. I mean, of course, the thick tires. Initially, you look at it and go, "Oh gosh, why do you need that?" But if you went on a dirt road, or if you went on, a rocky road, I mean, you're not feeling rocks, right? I mean, this thing is thick enough. It's got enough nice suspensions, everything to it. I would say for me, it was a lot. It was a lot because I don't have any experience with motorcycles. I think for you, you're like, oh my gosh, this is tiny compared to a motorcycle, and this is great, right? You still have your heft to it, so it's got something, but it's not, it's not going down to a tiny bicycle that feels like you're going to break it, as you're riding it, right?
Yeah, that the Whitewater Center is the National Whitewater Center is pretty close, and so that was a thought process behind the purchase as well. I want something I could take on the road with my son, and we could pedal down to downtown and go see some live music, pedal back. But I also want something I could take to the Whitewater Center if I wanted to get on the trails and like go through some real technical off-road stuff, which I've done regrettably with my son as well. And he's survived it. He's probably scarred from that as well. There's nothing you can throw at this that it can't handle. And
well,
I mean, I say that with like, I don't think you'd want to jump it off of something,
yeah,
like
because it's heavy,
real technical.
right? I mean, yeah,
they have like 3-foot drops. I'm almost guaranteed the batteries would come flying off that thing and you'd shatter your teeth. But
so you should try it, is what you're saying. You're going to try it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll let my son do it, and I'll film it for Brothers in Tech. He's 10, right? But
I think so. I think that's what I read. Yep.
We've gone up some steep hills, rocky terrain, and like you said, it's a lot of bike. That's probably the biggest adjustment.
Yeah.
Figuring out that pedal assist and how to work with it rather than it work you and kind of catch you real quick. It takes a little while to get used to it, but I mean, I've had other people like yourself, kind of newbies, get on the e-bike for the first time, and they just have the same kind of nervous, like I'm gonna go, here I go, like old grandma pedaling off. And then they come back with that shit-eating grin on their face, just like, that was so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it was, right? When I hopped on, it was like, okay, I'm used to I have a road bike. I have one that I can pick up with one hand, and I kind of hang it up in the ceiling, and it's super easy. And so when I hop on it, I know kind of that I'm manipulating everything, right? That it's not something I really have to, control. With this one, I grabbed it and I thought, okay, because if this thing starts to turn over on me, is it, like a motorcycle, right? If I hop on a motorcycle, it's like, wait a minute, what's going to happen if I sit still and I lean over? Do I have enough power to do it? And my wife, she chose not to, because I think that same thing. She was like, I just don't know, right? But no, it was cool. Like once you get on it, it's like kind of like riding a bike. It is more like, I think, riding a little moped that allows you to pedal. I thought it was pretty cool. And again, tried a couple hills, which was nice. That's where you really recognize, like, oh, thank goodness, right? Because normally I'd be standing up right now trying to push this thing through and hope that I don't stop and have to hop off my bike, right? Yep. And you're just allowing it to go a little more. So just to clarify, you hop on, because I actually can't remember. You hop on, you start to pedal. When you start to pedal, if you've already turned it on and said, let's say your pedal assist 1 or something, when I start to pedal, it's automatically starting to generate some power to help me with that pedaling? Or is it only when I struggle that it's kicking in?
As soon there's about a half second to maybe a 1 second delay, probably more like a half second, but you get spoiled pretty quick and it feels like a full second. Okay. So you initially have to pedal, and to let it know that it needs to kick in. You don't even get a quarter of a way around on crank, and it's kicked in. Depending on your level of pedal assist, you're either going like hold on, or pedal assist 1. You're not going to sweat in pedal assist 1.
Okay. And pedal assist 0 is not going to kick in and do anything. You're just pedaling. Can you do the throttle to add to it? Yep. Okay. And that's the part I want people to know. Like, so, this is not something where you have to go, okay, for the next ride, I'm going to set it to this, and this is the only way that I can do this, and I got to reach up there to change different things. Even if you were pedal assist 0, which means I am pedaling, and I happen to realize I turn a corner and, oh my gosh, I'm at the bottom of a hill, you still have a throttle on your handlebar, right? That can give you a tiny bit extra to go at that point to help you out. It's not like you have to say, oh, no, I got to stop, change it back to pedal assist 3 in order to start up again to go up this hill, right? You still have the power at your fingertips that you could potentially use.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said right up until you said throttle a tiny little bit for help. Because when you reach for that throttle, man, you're going to open it.
You're gutting it.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I mean, so for example, like, yeah, I've ridden motorcycles for 30 plus years of my life. So I'm probably too comfortable on it. But I go with my son, right? So there'll be times when we are pedaling and I have it on 0 pedal assist because he's 10. He's a little cautious. Thankfully,
Yep.
he got smarts from his mom. So I'll have it on 0 pedal assist. Plus, I'm trying to get in a little workout too, and I feel like, all right, I'm starting to sweat a little bit or a little bit too much. I'll on the fly kick it into pedal assist 1, pull up a little bit from my son to try to get him to pedal a little faster, and so you can do it all on the fly. This bike, I will say, is so powerful that you could run it on rear motor only. You could run it on front wheel motor only, or you could run both motors at the same time. It is so powerful that if you go from a stopped position and you have the front wheel motor engaged or both front and rear, you'll spin the tires on that front wheel. It will just spin. I've even spun the tire when I'm just pedaling on 0 pedal assist, and I'll just like kick in the throttle, like I said. And so I'm going 6, 7, 8 miles per hour, and you engage that front wheel and it'll take off on you. It'll spin because there's no weight up front, right?
Yep. And
so it has a lot of, I guess, is that torque? It has a lot of torque to it.
Yeah. No, and that's cool. I mean, I think there's some people that would get scared by that, to think that how much power they've got underneath them. But I think the other way to think about it is just, okay, this is where my mind goes, right? If I say that I go hop on so Laura and I go out and we hop on our road bikes, or it's more, I say road bike, but it's not the actual 10-speed. But if we hop on our dirt bike type of mountain bikes, right? We hop on the mountain bike and we go riding together. And I think to myself, how many times in that ride did I have to stand up in order to try to kind of get up a hill or to kind of speed up to go ahead of something? And I think those are often the most frustrating times for non-usual bike riders. It's like, okay, someone wants to go out and ride a bike. They often don't want to have to stand up in order to really kind of pump up a hill or pump to get faster on something. If you like riding a bike for the enjoyment of being outdoors, the enjoyment of kind of moving your legs around, but not the stress of having to stand up on the bike to really, push, this gets rid of that. Right. And I'm assuming you probably never stand up on this bike unless you really were trying to do maybe a mountain bike trail and tried to really test yourself. Right. But there's no reason to stand up on this ever. Okay. Yeah. And so if you're someone that loves to ride a bike, but you hate that part, and that's the part that keeps you from it, to say, I don't want to get stuck to where I don't think I can get up this hill, so I have to hop off, which is uncomfortable. And I also don't want to be the one that has to stand up in order to really push and get my extra momentum to get up a hill or to get, ahead of something. This gets rid of all of that, plus still allows you to pedal the way you wanted to pedal to begin with. Sure. So you kind of get that best of both worlds, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would add, like, someone like yourself, right? You're a 56-year-old man. You don't want to be walking your bike up a hill like a kid.
You know which brother you're talking to, right? You do know which brother you're talking to, right?
Did I miss a birthday? You're 57? But the other thing too is, like, I think about you and your wife and all the national parks you've been to, and mostly your wife, but this would be like, think about, you guys can take your bikes, right, and you can see 10 miles of the park.
Yep.
You have an e-bike, like, this bike says you get up to 75 miles per charge. I mean, the difference of seeing 10% of a park versus 50% of the park.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's, to me, and again, that goes back to and maybe I have a chip on my shoulder, because when I ride, so instead of driving to my morning workouts, I take my e-bike and I show up, and every time still, everybody's got to say something about me showing up on my e-bike, even though they come in their e-vehicles, right? But I'm cheating on my e-bike. But man, to be able to go out and pedal for an hour or, an hour and a half versus 30 minutes because you're going to get tired and sweaty and you don't want to get too far away from camp and not have a shower or something. Like there's just, to me, there was just so many added bonuses to it.
No, I get you, man. I get you. I think it's super cool. I mean, there's a part of me that would love to do. Let me tell you what my dream would be. This to me is the perfect addition to someone who gets into camping and says, maybe you have a Sprinter van or something that you're going to go and you're going to plop it down and you're going to camp out of it and you've got an awning out of it. This is what needs to be in the back, right? As opposed to the RV people that are pulling another car so that they get there, park, and then they're now driving another car. It's like this gets you everywhere you want to go whenever you plop down somewhere, other than the fact that you're out in the weather, depending on where you are. But you're exactly right. If I could go do this in a national park as compared to getting in the line of people in their cars to try to explore and limit me to only those pathways or driveways and parking lots. And now I have the ability to be able to do other things. I think this is really cool. And I know I'm not going to get stuck at the bottom of a hill, not being able to get to a certain part. I think that is, that's kind of the ideal. So
I think it's important too. I don't want to confuse your mom and think like, oh, this is the only option for e-bike out here, 100+ pound bike with all this power. I mean, you can get a foldable, kind of clown car e-bike, one of those things that you can just fold in and take it into the office. So you don't have to worry about anybody stealing it. You can get, just like you're saying, looks basically like a mountain bike. You could barely see where the motor is hidden on the frame of the bike, and everything in between. Like there's just so many different types of e-bikes. This one, if you're going on like the least extreme to the most extreme, this bike that we keep highlighting is pretty damn close to the most extreme that you can get for an e-bike. There are a ton of other more affordable, less powerful, just as fun, cool e-bikes.
Yep. And I think that's a good point. I mean, we've spent time on this particular type, but I just did a quick, now, of course, this does not fit into that less expensive version, but just as a comparison, right, in terms of size, there are, as you said, there are e-bikes where it looks like a bike with a slightly thicker metal frame, and then that's where it's all, helping, right? And some of that is just doing regenerative, like built in, like when you pedal, it's charging its own battery and it's kind of kicking in and doing some other things, or it's giving you a little bit of that. I think there's all sorts of levels of it. You're exactly right. When you're thinking of this, try to imagine what is it that you would really love to do. What is it that, what are you going to use it for? What are the environments in which you're going to have it? And do you feel like, would my mom want to have one that looks like yours? Probably not. Right. But at the same point, will she want the power maybe that goes along with some of that? Maybe. So now the question is, how much power and how much of a frame do I want to have to deal with? And, what are the environments that I'm going to put it on? So, Jeff, can we maybe start to summarize this thing and kind of wrap up by kind of stepping back a minute and saying, like, who are the people that we are talking to? So who do you think are the ideal people that should really give e-bikes a look?
Americans.
Okay.
Honestly, like I started the story, right? There was, I don't know, the Japanese moms, let's just say she was in her early 30s, pedaling her kids and her groceries, and her kids had their school books and their backpack on. I mean, like that to me is the perfect person for an e-bike. There's in my old neighborhood, the older couple, pedaling around the neighborhood, just tooling around during COVID. That's the perfect people for an e-bike. There's the banker bros in Charlotte in their, 20s, no kids, single, buzzing on the street, hopping on the sidewalk, cutting through the park, just using it as a commuter bike. They're the perfect people for an e-bike. It's like, get past the, oh, you're cheating stigma. because the reality is like 80% of the people probably would never be biking. Like they're just not.
Right.
So you're cheating yourself by not being out there doing something. And so I know it's kind of a flippant answer, but I don't think there's like one demographic the e-bike is geared for over another. There's literally options out there to meet everybody's need, whether it's a road bike, whether it's a mountain bike, whether it's a commuter bike.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And it may just be that other than the people that are totally comfortable and happy right now on regular like road bikes, and that's where they're comfortable because they're already riding and they're already commuting and they're always doing that thing. You're talking about pretty much everybody else. If we can get away from, if there's an opportunity to do this either for fun or for not having to drive, to kind of limit that likelihood, then it seems like it's a great opportunity. We haven't mentioned the price, even though we saw it earlier, right? But maybe when you were doing your research, what was the range of prices that you were really considering? I mean, you were willing to consider. I'm sure there's some that are ridiculously, expensive, but this was pretty pricey, right? $3,000.
It was really, $3,300. It might have gone up a little bit from when I bought it.
Okay.
We haven't talked about I think I had a 3-month wait from when I placed my order to when I got it. I don't know how supply chain issues have worked themselves out. If that's changed in 2023.
But what was the least expensive model that you were considering, given the check boxes that you had?
The least expensive, I think, was around $900.
Okay. Yep.
And this was right at the upper limit. And basically, I had a budget and I needed 2 bikes.
Yep. So you said, I'm gonna get the best I can for what I have a budget for. Right, is what you did.
That's the way I roll. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't want to have something that I ended up outgrowing. Like, I don't know what other needs. I guess when bikes start to fly, then I'll be in trouble. But I don't know what other needs I'm going to have that this bike can't meet. We didn't really talk about, but another benefit is like you can ride 2 people on this bike. So my son and I will get on one bike. And he just holds on the back. It's got pegs in the back. It's got a seat on the back.
It's got a big enough seat, right? Long enough seat.
Yep, standard pegs. There's an option for a seat extender for second ass, and it can cover both of our weight. And my son, he's not a tiny boy, so.
And geez, those quads, right? Yeah,
that's right. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So yeah, it's multi-use. You could do a lot of different things with it.
You do get what you pay for.
I was gonna ask you, like, what was the concern with the $900? Was it look? Was it lack of power? Was it? Do you remember like the 900, the low end of what were you gonna lose? What were you gonna lose?
You were losing power. You were losing range. Okay. You were losing. Lights,
it only had one battery instead of 2, I'm assuming.
One motor instead of 2, one battery instead of 2. There was no light on the front, so you're losing no light on the back, so you're losing safety. I don't believe there were disc brakes on it because, again, there wasn't as much power you had to deal with. Yeah. The bike I got has front and rear suspension. Around $1,000, I think, only had front suspension. So there's, first world issues that I didn't. I sold the Harley, which was a sacrifice, so I treated myself and myself.
Sure, yeah. I kind of look at it that way too, to say you were coming from motorcycle down. So I think your view is quite different than someone that says, I'm coming from only riding a regular bicycle up, right? And they're probably going to want, well, what looks most like a bicycle that I'm comfortable with and is light enough, but still gives me the benefits that I want. And maybe they're still paying the same amount potentially for the sleekness and the way it's controlled within the frame and all of that. Or they're going to make it a little bit more beefy in order to be able to have the power that they might want to be able to do it. So you really need to kind of balance. It seems like balance look, performance, but also maneuverability and,
Yep.
comfort from where you were before. So where are you coming in your, bike to motorcycle range of experience? To me, if I'm coming off of a road bike, I'm going to want something that looks and feels as close to a road or a mountain bike as it can. That gives me that extra bit. But if I'm coming from a motorcycle, I have no problems, and I kind of want to feel like I've got, something similar underneath me, right? Yeah. What would you say? Can I maybe ask one more question about the? Do they have add-ons to make regular bikes pedal assist? I mean, did you see? I know you probably didn't look into any of those, but somehow I think that there's either a market, if it hasn't been there already, and I haven't looked into it, but of like a clamp on that at least provides a little bit of regenerative kind of boost, almost like you get in a cycle class where you're having something that kind of regenerates some of your power. It feels like there's an in-between there to kind of get people into the assist mode. And I'm sure that the bike assist or e-bike people are not at all for that. They want to see you jump to an e-bike, but
Right.
it feels like there's got to be different variations of that can give people the options, right? A few $100
I
as
did not
opposed to a
see
few
any of
thousand.
that
Okay.
in my
Yeah.
research.
And of course, you didn't have a bike to add to it, right? So it wasn't that was a market that you were looking into.
No,
right?
we have regular old.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, mountain bikes.
Okay.
Same one I had when I was in college. So it's what's that? 5-6 years old. So yeah, it's seen some use.
Wow, 5 or 6 years and being 56. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, you're the 56.
Oh, sorry. I was confused. All right. Well, that's cool, man. So I guess our takeaway on this is that you're happy. You love them. You think they're fun. You think they're useful. And I'm certainly hoping that we have shown people that they can be useful for all ranges of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get you on a bike if you're not willing to go on a bike now, to potentially make your biking happen more often because of the limits you might have of a tire and time of day and time it takes to get places, that you can kind of get rid of that, and it potentially allows more people to get out and maybe pedal a little bit, but certainly get out and be outside and travel in ways that maybe don't have a big engine that will kill the world a little faster. So
yeah, I mean, I think
there's cool options.
It's a conscious decision because the temptation will be there to just use the throttle, right? And so my son has a strict no throttle rule, and when I catch him cheating, he knows that he's not supposed to, and he has that 5 seconds of regret before he tries to sneak in the throttle again. But I mean, I have used it in so many instances where instead I could have been in a car, and I don't know. To me, that's kind of special. That the car's parked. I'm not spending the money on gas.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, right? About savings there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've taken it to work out. I've taken it to just for fun with my son. I've taken it to concert downtown where don't want to have to deal with traffic, don't have to fight for parking. And so,
very cool.
Kind of every different way that you could think of. I've ridden the bike at night. I've ridden it in the afternoon, and it's a pretty versatile, fun little tool to have, I think.
I love it.
I've not used my regular bike in years.
Yeah. And why would you, right? At this point, when you can get out and still potentially push yourself the same way you wanted to before, but yet have the ability also to help yourself out in tricky situations. So
yeah,
it's really cool, man. Yeah. I think it's great. It gives me some excitement thinking about, the possibilities down the road when I'm as old as you to try to have that assistance and, help out. It's certainly something that, I'd love to see, like my parents, people that I know I could never get on a bike. But what's funny is that, really, my mom and my dad would be happy to be in a fitness facility, hopping on a stationary bike where they could control the amount of challenge that they're doing. but there's no way in the world, safety-wise, they would get out on a regular bike because of how do I hop on and off when I can't get up that hill and all of those things. And I just think it would be fantastic to have the ability to do that and to get people moving in an activity that just had
asking for another ride. I'll write her back. I'll write her back.
Well, yeah, she's listening. So, feel free to talk to her. Feel free to talk to her now. I'll step off and let you guys have an intimate conversation. She's probably the only one listening. So, you guys, you can just talk one-on-one.
We usually talk Thursday nights.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Glad to hear that. All right. Well, I think unfortunately, Alan is going to give me crap because we went, an hour and 15 minutes. That's, a target of an hour has always been our golden goose, and we never hit it. So we're always at hour and 15, and he claims it's my fault. And now I'm guessing it probably is. So, but whatever, he wasn't here. So we had a good time.
Fix it in post.
That's right. All right. Well, I think we're going to have to wrap it up here, Jeff. It was fun as always. Loved having you on. And it was great not having Alan here. This was fantastic. And I'm sure our numbers will be better than any other episode we have, at this point. So we'll see him go through the roof, and, we'll get the clamoring to not have him on again, or, have him just as a guest every once in a while. Yeah. So normally I would have, the show host would have the other person tell us, well, how would people contact us? I'm going to do that because that's usually my objective. So you can send us an email at info@themesh.tv. Tell us about other topics you'd love us to get into. If there's things that about e-bikes, or if you have an e-bike or have looked into e-bikes that have a different experience than what Jeff has presented, or different models that you would suggest, please let us know. We'd love to share that with others. You can also go to our website at www.brothers-in-tech.com and get previous episodes, as well as hopefully we'll have some more helpful tips that we'll put up there and guide you in some different ways within the world of home technology. So for your current host, Brian, and for our wonderful guest, Jeff, thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you being here. Man. And now I'm going to talk a little slower because I'm still trying to figure out how to close out the show, because Alan typically does this. So I'm going to say thank you all for being here. Jeff, thanks very much. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.